welcome to the Sin Bin 6 podcast. I am your host, Billy North-Lewis, and joining with me is Joseph Terry. Joseph, how you doing?
Billy? Good to be on the pod for the first episode. And, there are many things in the British sporting calendar which are always going to be there, and that's Six Nations, thankfully. And I can't wait for ridiculous amounts of Guinness pints being spilt as you walk down the concourse and the sea of brown Oxford shoes walking down Twickenham that's going to be coming in about a week's time.
Are you sure you mean the sea of Welsh tears that will appear when it's underway?
Or that as well, which, I am. Again, I am no Welsh rugby fan, but if I was a Welsh rugby fan, I would be incredibly, incredibly nervous going into this Six Nations tournament. But we'll probably talk more about that later on.
Oh, absolutely. So we may as well get down to business. How excited are you for this year's Six Nations?
I think this is a really exciting Six Nations because we've got a proper three-way fight for the title, which is the first time we've had a three-way fight for a very long time. I think, yes, you can say that last year was close, but there wasn't really that level of competition, at least towards the title, towards the end. England had that good result towards the end against France, but I mean, that was nothing really that was going to change the permutations. We already knew who was going to win overall. So you've got some really interesting battles right at the top, particularly, I think, within an Irish setup that we don't know really what they're going to deliver from a really disappointing autumn. We know what the English have been delivering, but we don't know if that's going to continue and keep on rolling as it has been for the last year. And then you've got the French, who have come in with an absolute curveball of a squad selection, which nobody has really been able to figure out. There's so many variables that are happening within a Six Nations. And at the bottom of the end, Italy go into this with red hot home form. They've got Scotland at home. That's going to be a very interesting match to watch. You've got the Welsh, who are still trying to excise those real demons that are lying in the domestic game, and they've got to get out of this rut of what would be a historic third consecutive wooden spoon. There's so many narratives going into this, Billy, that I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all goes out. I'm guessing you agree with me on that.
Absolutely. I mean, in all my life of the Six Nations, I've never seen sort of like a preview and squad announcements being this big, especially with the amount of omissions that have happened. I mean, with France, there's no Intermac Penaud, which is sort of understandably why. I think Jalibert started to become more of a favourable fly half. And I think the way Gelfie's looking at this, obviously he loves his attacking rugby, but I think this time he's aiming for a bit more of a defence, because you look back at France, you look back at their autumn, if there was one thing that they were struggling with, it was defence. Because I think they conceded 32 points against South Africa, 21 against Fiji, and 33 against Australia, to which, if I was the coach, I'd be fuming. I'd be furious at that, and especially against 14-man South Africa. So I think, and Penaud's not really that defensive player. So I think, and also in the top 14, he's been making some costly errors, which I think has just ultimately just made him lose his spot in the national team. But France aren't the only one with disastrous squad omissions. Ireland are in the same as well, with Hugo Keenan's injury and Bundy Aki suspended for 6 weeks, which could pretty much rule him out for the entire Six Nations Championship. He might be able to play in the last game, but I don't think that'll be the case. So Andy Farrell's got a lot of work to do before next week's trip to Paris.
And the thing for me about the Bundy Aki story is that if there was a worse time for Andy Farrell to have a situation like that, it would be a week before the start of Six Nations. And also for Andy Farrell as the Irish head coach, he's still really getting used to being back in the Irish setup after that spell at the Lions and having that short spell of the Autumn Nations series. But past there, he hasn't been in a Six Nations tournament set up, preparing for Six Nations with the Irish team for 2 years, which is a bigger step and I think it's a bigger storyline that people aren't talking about as much because Andy Farrell hasn't been in that Six Nations setup and that feel, that atmosphere for a long time. And then you're in pre tournament training, and one of your star players goes and has a bust up and then gets suspended for maybe the whole of the Six Nations, at least for the first 3 matches of the tournament. I mean, it's just a disastrous start to the camp, and I'm sure there'll be stories that come out about why it happened and so on, but it does make you think: is the pressure on Ireland so much that it's actually showing that there's frustration already within the camp because they know that France and England are better tipped to win the title for the first time in a long time compared to Ireland?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough one, but as always, I think we shouldn't rule out Ireland as title contenders this year. You know, they still could go in and do a fantastic job, but I feel like this is just your classic Irish team. They'll suddenly find form. They're doing really well, and then it all goes downwards, and then they've got to rebuild. So I think because this is exactly what happened when Joe Schmidt took charge. He took charge of an Ireland team that weren't particularly on very good form, and they had a terrible Six Nations. I think they almost got the wooden spoon in 2013, and he really had to rebuild them, and he did. But then eventually, when he did rebuild them, after the 2015 World Cup, that's when they started to go down spiral again, and it was through injuries and just, I think it's just a repeat again. So I think Ireland will try their absolute best to bounce back. I think they'll do reasonably well, but their toughest games, France in Paris and England at Twickenham, that I'm afraid to say, I don't think it's looking particularly well with Ireland. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I am convinced this is the most difficult draw they could have got, and it is. That's why I'm so looking forward to this first half, because we're going to get a first match which is going to be near enough winner stays on, potentially, to win the title. Obviously, you could have a situation where, say, France beat Ireland, but then England beat France and so on. That could happen. But that's near enough winner stays on. And then from there, you've got another virtual tournament final only 2 weeks later. That first half is going to be so important. And I am so looking forward to seeing how they can bounce back, because if you're the Irish, how do you return from, let's say it's a loss against France, you then roll into a home tie against Italy, a tie that you're expected to win, but a tie that is also fraught with some serious danger because the Italians know how to upset a team in their own backyard. Then from there, you're going to Twickenham to play England, who could be, 13 games unbeaten by that point, potentially?
Yeah, I would confidently say so, especially since they've got Wales in their opening match and then Scotland away, which will be tough, but I think they'll do it.
If I was an Irish fan, I would be setting expectations low, not because you have less hope in your side's performance, but it's to say that the level of competition is so much better this year than it was in 2024, 2023, during that run when Ireland were picking up nearly Grand Slams or Grand Slams as well. I think the competition's got so much more strong that Ireland need to set themselves realistic expectations here. And I genuinely think realistic expectation is third place. I
totally agree.
Yeah, because if you look at the preparation, if you look at the summer as well, with 2 matches that were really not that useful for an Irish squad.
Yeah, one side, it was more that just felt more beneficial to the smaller teams like Portugal. Like, yes, they conceded 100 points, but it's good for like the more amateur nations to play against the bigger nations. And for Ireland, it was just more let's just pretty much get the senior academy going.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And also, the thing that worries me about the Irish calendar is that there is a very real chance that there are 2 dead rubber games at the end of this tournament. And the thing that scares me about that is that if we're already seeing bust-ups in training with Bundyaki, how is that mood within the squad going to sour as we move forwards? Are we going to a situation where they get knocked down twice against France and England, then you get to 2 home ties against Wales and Scotland, and they're 3 hits almost, and then you see a lack of motivation, lack of drive. I think there is real peril here for the Irish to have a real disastrous campaign.
I think as well what also doesn't help is the whole fly half debate, because there's Sam Prendergast, Jack Crowley, and I think Frawley's in there as well. And to which, Kieran Frawley. I think that's also going to be another huge bout, because the year before, so 2024, was all about Jack Crowley. Last year was all about Sam Prendergast. Then Andy Farrell went back and went for Crowley. So what's going to happen here? Because fly half, Ireland usually get their fly half spot on. They had Ronan O'Gara, Johnny Sexton, but this time they haven't got a clue. And that's going to be another just absolute mess, because within a team, you've got to lock in on that fly half who can control the game. And people were saying Sam Prendergast has been on form. People were considering him for the Lions, which I thought really over the Smiths and Russell. I thought no chance. And then it's going to be really interesting. But I probably would go Crowley. I just think he just fits the system better, and I just think Prendergast just needs a couple more games like against Portugal and Spain. It might sound like a big controversy, but I just think that he just needs a bit more time, a bit more experience. But he'll probably be a bit of a bench warmer, so to speak. So I think that's where it's going to land. But
from the Irish staying Celtic, then I want to talk about Wales. I want to talk about this Welsh squad. I want to talk about how this Welsh squad has been trying to train, perhaps, with how much is going on around them, with the Ospreys, with the Y11 takeover, with this talk now of an ultimatum and the potential threat of a walkout, which could be happening as well. There is so much going on within Welsh rugby. And sorry, Billy, go for it.
It's just even it's making me speechless. Just there's so many alternatives that could happen in the Welsh camp, and just and behind the scenes as well, with the worry of a club disappearing, with because by the sounds of it, it could be Ospreys, and despite their rich history, it could be lights out for them just like that, and that could be quite something. And Steve Tanley's only been in the job for a couple of months, and that Autumn Nation series, it's really odd because not all of it for Wales has been negative. They got a win for a start. That's huge against Japan. But there's been some interesting things going on, preferably on their attack, because they've got the speedster Lewis Rees-Summit back from the NFL, which for Wales that is a huge boost. But then you lose that boost with the loss of Jack Morgan, which is a massive shame, because he has been Wales' star man. I've had people say to me, how can you be this good when you play for a team that's currently on the worst form possible? It's such a loss for Wales. But, I think what's going to be interesting, is their best chance of winning a game in the Six Nations this year is not against Italy, as many people would say. I think they've got a better chance against Scotland, because they're at home playing against Scotland. And when you look at how they did against Argentina and the All Blacks, yes, they got thrashed, but they scored 4 tries, which usually and if they do that against Scotland, who I don't think will score 50-odd points, I think, Wales could give Scotland a good scare like they did the last time they met in Cardiff, 27-0 up, and then suddenly there's this great Welsh comeback, and then they only lost by a point. So I think that's going to be their best chance of winning a game in this year's championship.
And I agree, because if you look at the form of Italy against Wales in Cardiff, 2 wins in the last 2 meetings, that's a trend. That's not just a coincidence. That is a trend. That is Italians coming to Cardiff with the mentality of, we are going to embarrass you in your own backyard. We're going to beat you. That might
for the third time running.
Yeah, I mean, that might sound slightly harsh, but if you're an Italian rugby fan and you've been constantly laughed at for about, well, the last 20 years, basically, in the Six Nations, you're going to want to go to a team like Wales in Cardiff, get a solid win and prove it to the rugby heartlands that you deserve a place and that you shouldn't be replaced by Georgia. That is a consistent trend, and I will call that a trend now, because I think the numbers show that trend and show that statistic. I think Wales have got the best chance against Scotland, as you say, and I think more nervous for Scotland than I am Wales, because with Wales, where are their expectations? Their expectations are already low. The morale's already low. Anything is a positive, unless they get thumped 74-0 and they lose and they break their own record in Test rugby again. But any sort of positive performance is a benefit. That's a good. So if they can get a few tries against Italy, if they can maybe try and stop the English front row from scoring more than 4 tries, that's a win. I don't see where Scotland have the wins to pick up here. I don't see where Scotland can say that's gone better than we thought it would, because everyone expects them to beat Wales, expects them to beat Italy, expects them to lose against the rest of the teams. Yeah. So, I mean, where do the sort of positives come from? Because with Wales, everything's negative, so everything's going to be positive in the end, isn't it? Whereas with Scotland, they're just even keel. I mean, you know more than I do about being a Scottish rugby fan, so take the floor.
Well, as a Scotland fan, it's never easy. It's hard. It's harder than most people think. But I think with Scotland, at least, I guess you could call this a positive. At least this time, it won't be nothing but hype, as it has been the last couple of years. You know, we'll have a great Autumn Nation series. Oh yeah, Tui Pelotu, Duan van der Merwe. Oh, they're going to do great. We lost to England because Russell didn't have his kicking boots on. What's this? We've lost to Ireland because we just absolutely folded, and then against France we couldn't be bothered in the second half. Like, that's not how we played against the teams in the autumn, and it was just unbelievable. And I just think with Scotland, I think I may as well go and say it. I think as a Scotland fan, Gregor Townsend out. Because the only achievement he's actually done is what? Beat England 4 times in a row. Fine, that's fine, but it does my head in. He and the players talk such a big game, but do they deliver it? No. So why is it that that should be a thing? And also, it's just he always acts like he's brought a different kind of rugby on. No, he hasn't. It's the same rugby every year, and it's just not working out. And I just think we need to just refresh the whole system, because you also look at Townsend's record as well. What have his losses been to? Italy, Fiji, Japan, USA, for goodness sake. Yeah. Like, I think, and also 2 early World Cup exits. It's not good enough.
Do you think that it's a problem that the club game isn't managing relationships with the national game as well? Because you look at a team like Glasgow Warriors that can go out and win the URC, and then the Scottish national team collapses pretty much. Is it a bit of an issue with trying to get the club ethos into the national team as well? Because obviously a lot of the Scottish squad now are, here, there, and everywhere, really. I mean, there's more of them playing at Glasgow and Edinburgh, but a lot of them have gone to France or to England or elsewhere.
It's definitely something, because I can see where you're coming from, because Blair Kinghorn and Ben White, who played in the UK and then moved to France, they've done really well. Russell went to Racing and he's come back to Bath, one of the best fly halves in the world. And I think even prior to that, he was up there. But I think it's so weird, because you look at Glasgow, they did a fantastic, they won their second title, and it's really strange. And Edinburgh act like your typical sort of Scotland team, pretty much. Just I'd even go as far as say is playing like France. If they turn up, they're phenomenal, but if they don't, it just falls to pieces. And it's really weird how the clubs work, because I think Scotland want these players to stay in Scotland, but it's really weird. It's just sort of on and off, really, with the clubs at the moment. And I think it's really strange. I mean,
I tell you what, speaking of strange, let's talk about the French for a bit. Probably the favourites, and 12 uncapped players in the squad from Fabien Galthié. We touched a bit on it earlier on, but I want to ask the question of, do we think that Galthié has made too many changes here? Because 12 uncapped players is a lot, and also it's uncapped players from within the top 14. We were potentially thinking about seeing some Pro D2 players into that squad, which didn't really come true. Does Galthié know that his team are favourites, and he's going into it saying, we've got the players and we've got the calibre to get more players in? Or is it a bit of arrogance to say, I'm going to make 12 uncapped players capped, and we're going to sweep it regardless?
I don't think it's arrogance. The one thing I've learned with Fabien Galthié, never underestimate him. Never. Because we have seen what a French C team can do in the past, and they can still give a team a challenge. So it's hard to say, because obviously I can understand where you're coming from with him acting arrogant, but I'm just, every time I listen to him, I'm just going, no, I know what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. Let's just leave it like that. Because I mean, the omissions and the 12 uncapped players, one thing with Galthié is, he's got an eagle eye. He knows a good player when he sees one, and he knows a bad player when he sees it. And it doesn't matter how many caps or how much experience you have in France, because look at Penaud and Intermac again. They've played for France so many times, not in the squad, because they're just clearly not doing well. And also, I think this year with Galthié, he's looking at a different game plan altogether, because, like I said, in the autumn, defensively, it just didn't work out. So I think he's looking for a bit more defense, but still, he's brought in Dupont, meaning we are definitely going to see some flair, as per usual, with France.
And obviously, alongside the French, the English, they are the other prime candidates for the title, which I'm sure you would even admit through gritted teeth, Billy, as a Scottish fan. We are... Well, exactly. I mean, I will say that as an English rugby fan, this is the best chance we've had in a very long time. And this squad feels like Six Nations winning squad. I just want there to be some clarity about who is starting where and who is playing, because this is the one thing that English squads have always had a bit is just there's always that conversation about Smith or Farrell, or a conversation about Finn Smith as well has been in that whole situation over 10. It just keeps on rolling and rolling and rolling forwards. And And you've got more players coming into that squad. But I'm really happy to see Greg Fisselau get included into that squad. I think he's played superb rugby at Exeter Chiefs in the Prem. I'm glad to see there is some fluidity in terms of the squad, but it is an embarrassment of riches in terms of that English squad. And Arundel's back in, which is massive. And Henry Arundel is the prophecy that was never seen until today. Basically, this is when we will truly figure out if Henry Arundel is the bee's knees when it comes to the international game. What I hope is that he can be a bit of a cheat code against the French. I hope that he can be that cheat code and say, I know how you play rugby. I know what you like. I know what the top 14 demands of you physically, mentally, strategically. I think he's key. Now, even if he isn't playing or starting, you've got to think that he's in those team meetings, basically
100%.
alongside Borthwick saying, right, under 4, 4, 5, this is what they do, ABC. Like, that must be happening because Owen Farrell's time in France sort of proved that he was never really built to play rugby in France anyways. It kind of proved he was built to play Prem rugby, didn't it? Whereas Arundel was unbelievable playing top 14 rugby.
Yeah.
I am well excited for this because I think there is a genuine chance that when it comes to that final game, full house at the Stade de France, last game of the entire tournament, title decider potentially, that there is an unbelievably mouth-watering prospect. I mean, that is on a level with Wales, England, 2013 at Twickenham.
Yeah.
To me, at least.
But what amazes me is how they get the fixtures spot on. They see it every time. They just have a glare in the future. Right, this is most likely going to be the title decider. Let's make that the final game. And it's just unbelievable. But one thing that's sort of just hurting England a little bit, the front row problem. Yes. Will Stewart out, Finn Baxter out. That and the loss of Will Stewart, that's not good. And we've seen what happened when there's been a faulty error in the English front row. We saw it in the 2019 World Cup final, hence why South Africa absolutely dominated that game. And that's going to be the one glaring problem for England because Wales have an absolutely fantastic front row. I don't care what people say. Like, yes, Wales aren't on great form, but still, you can't rule out that front row, especially with Dewey Lake. And Scotland, Big Schumann and Fagerson are going to hound England if they don't get it right. And Ireland as well, just all the teams have a solid front row, but England's has sort of been crippled by the loss of Stewart and Baxter. And that's going to be the one glaring problem Steve Borthwick is going to have. But I think he will solve it. And, I'm still confident that England will win the whole thing.
Right then, quick fire. Who gets the wooden spoon? I'll go straight in with Scotland.
Ooh, gut saying Wales. Not saying because I'm a Scotland fan. I think it's still going to be Wales because they still, regardless of what happens, I just have a feeling they'll always find a way to just mess it up.
And then who wins it overall?
England. And 2 words for you: Grand Slam. I'm going in big. I think England are going to win the Grand Slam, and because their toughest challenge will be France away last game, and the last time they faced them, they in Paris, they only lost by 2 points. So I think England will be up for it.
I'm also going to go England, but I don't think it'll be Grand Slam. I think it's going to be 4 wins and 1 loss. I think England do win it still. I think it's going to be a situation where, let's say, France beat Ireland, then England beat France, and then a situation where it goes down to points, bonus points, probably. I think. because I can't see all of the teams beating each other in a Grand Slam. I don't think so, at least. And final one as well. Do we see BA as the top scorer again, or do we see another name jumping in there? I'm thinking of Reece Zammit. I'm thinking
Henry Arundel.
Henry Arundel is definitely up there.
Because, yeah, I mean, that's going to be... I mean, we can't rule out Duan and Darcy either. We can't rule out some of the Italians. Maybe Capuzzo might do it. It might sound... might sound a bit of a laugh, but no, I think, don't underestimate the Italian back three, because they can score tries. Oh, they can definitely rile up the defenses. So no, it's gonna be something. But the next question is player of the championship. May as well go through it early.
My heart says Henry Pollock, but my head probably goes with Dupont. I'm going to go very, very boring. My head goes Dupont, but my heart really does want the ice in the veins of Pollock to be coursing through the Six Nations this year.
You know what? I completely agree with you on that one. I'm going to go for the same as well. But no, it should be a phenomenal tournament. The Six Nations is always great fun, and yeah, cannot wait for a Thursday night game, which will be very interesting in Paris. So no, we're kicking it off with a bang, and hopefully it ends in an absolute just chaotic Super Saturday like always.
Yes, well, thank you, for your time, Billy. Thank you for your time as well to all the listeners and viewers as well. You can keep up to date on all of the content over the Six Nations on sportsnewsblitz.com, as well as keeping an eye on all the articles that I'll be writing, particularly week by week, previewing and reviewing all the matches as well. Thanks, Billy, for your time. Thank you for your time, listener, and roll on the Six Nations.